You built it yourself. You measured twice, cut once, sealed it against the weather, and it still looks off. Nobody wants to sit in it for more than 10 minutes. Guests stand near it instead of using it. That is not bad luck, and it is not bad woodworking.
Typical.
It is a design problem. And by the end of this video, you will know exactly what architects understand about outdoor space that most DIY builders never learn. Stick around, because the fix is simpler than you think, and it will change how you plan every outdoor project from now on. If you are working on your own backyard right now, hit subscribe on Home Intel before we go further. We break down design logic like this every week, the kind that actually explains why a space works instead of just telling you to buy nicer furniture. Why most DIY seating fails before the first cut. Most backyard seating fails for one simple reason. It gets designed backward. People pick a bench style they like on Pinterest, build it, then try to find a spot for it in the yard. Architects never work this way. They start with the space and the way people move through it, and the furniture comes last, almost as an afterthought. When you flip that order, the seat becomes a whole plan instead of a piece of it, and that mismatch is what makes a bench feel randomly placed even when it is technically well built. The problem is never the wood. It is the sequence. Scale and proportion, the first rule architects never skip. Architecture runs on proportion. Every good building follows a relationship between the size of a room and the size of the furniture inside it. Backyards are rooms too, just without a roof. A 6-foot bench against a fence in a 30-foot wide yard reads as small and lost. The same bench tucked into a 10-foot wide alcove reads as generous and intentional. This is why two people can build the exact same bench, and one version feels cozy, while the other feels like an afterthought parked in the grass. Before you build anything, measure the open space around where the seating will sit. As a general architectural guideline, seating should occupy roughly a third to half of the width of the zone that anchors it, meaning the defined seating area itself, not the entire yard. Sizing a bench to a third of your whole lawn will overpower the rest of the landscape instead of complementing it. Scale the seat to its immediate zone and let the wider yard stay open. Skip this step, and no amount of nice lumber will save the layout. Zoning why your yard feels like one big empty space. Architects divide space into zones before they place a single object in it. A living room has a seating zone, a walking zone, and a transition zone, and none of them overlap. Most backyards have none of that. It is just grass, then a patio, then a bench somewhere near the edge. That is why the seating feels disconnected, because it has no defined territory of its own. The fix is to create a zone first using something as simple as a change in ground material, a low planter border, a gravel bed, or even a shift from grass to pavers. Once that zone exists, the seating has a home instead of just sitting exposed in open space, and it also gives you the reference point for sizing the bench correctly, since the proportion rule applies to the zone rather than the yard as a whole. This single move, done before any building starts, is the difference between a bench that looks placed and one that looks abandoned. Sightlines, the invisible rule that makes or breaks a seating area. Here is something most DIY builders never think about at all. What is the seat face? Architects obsess over sightlines because the human eye needs somewhere to land, and a seat facing a blank fence or the side of the house creates subconscious discomfort even if the person sitting there cannot explain why. Good architecture always gives seating a view, whether that is a garden bed, a fire feature, an open lawn, or even just a well-framed gap between two trees. If your current bench faces a wall or a storage shed, that is very likely the real reason nobody sits in it, regardless of how comfortable the cushions are. Before finalizing placement, sit in a folding chair in the exact spot for a few minutes at different times of day and pay attention to what your eyes naturally do. If they have nowhere pleasant to rest, the design needs to change before the build begins. Materials and weather logic the part everyone underestimates. A huge share of failed backyard seating does not fail on design. It fails on physics. Wood that is not properly rated for ground contact rots from the legs up within a couple of seasons. Metal fasteners that are not weather-rated rust and stain the wood around them. Flat horizontal surfaces without a slight drainage slope pool water and warp. Architects and outdoor designers plan for water, sun, and temperature swings from day one, not as an afterthought. For 2026 builds, pressure-treated lumber rated for ground contact, stainless or coated exterior fasteners, and a 2 to 3% drainage slope on any flat seating surface are considered baseline requirements, not upgrades. There is one detail even ground contact rated lumber owners often miss. Would absorb standing moisture through its exposed end grain when the legs sit directly on damp pavers or gravel over time, even when the lumber itself is rated for it. Adding a simple barrier under each leg, such as metal post caps or rubber pads, breaks that contact with a damp surface and meaningfully extends the life of the build. Skipping any of these details is one of the fastest ways to turn a good-looking design into a short-lived one. Ergonomics, why some benches are comfortable and others are not. This is the part architecture borrows directly from human factors design. There's a reason built-in porch benches from a century ago still feel comfortable while a lot of modern DIY seating does not. Seat height, seat depth, and backrest angle are not style choices. They are measurements tied directly to how the human body rests. A comfortable outdoor bench generally sits around 17 to 18 inches high, with a seat depth of 16 to 20 inches, and a backrest angle back somewhere between 10 and 15 degrees from vertical. Go outside these ranges and the seat will look fine in photos, but feel wrong within minutes of sitting down. This is exactly why so many good-looking DIY builds get used once for a photo and never again. The Architecture Fix, a simple framework you can apply today. Here's the framework, distilled from everything above, that you can use on your own yard starting this weekend. First, define the zone before you design the seat, using a material or border change to give the space its own footprint. Second, check the proportion between the seat and that zone specifically, not the whole yard. Third, sit in the spot and confirm the sightline gives your eyes somewhere pleasant to land. Fourth, choose materials rated for ground contact and outdoor exposure. Isolate the legs from damp surfaces with post caps or pads, and build in drainage from the start. Fifth, hold the seat to human scale, using the height, depth, and backrest numbers covered earlier. Follow that order and the seating will feel intentional instead of improvised, because that is the exact order architects use on projects worth far more than a backyard bench. Picture a simple backyard corner. A builder put a bench against a back fence facing the house. No zone, no border, flat top with no slope, legs sitting directly on damp gravel. It will likely warp within a year, and nobody will want to sit facing the house anyway. Now take the same bench, shift it to face outward toward a garden bed, add a strip of gravel or pavers beneath it to define the zone, size the bench to that zone rather than the yard, angle the backrest to around 12 degrees, slope the seat slightly for drainage, and set the legs on simple metal caps or pads. Same materials, same budget, same weekend of work. The only thing that changed is the logic behind the placement, and that is the entire point of this video. Architecture is not about spending more. It is about sequencing your decisions correctly. Most backyard seating does not fail because people lack skill. It fails because the seat gets designed before the space does. Architects flip that order every single time, and now you know exactly how to flip it too. If this changed how you were thinking about your own backyard project, that is exactly why Home Intel exists, to give you the design logic behind the spaces you're building, not just another tutorial. Subscribe to Home Intel so you catch the next one. Drop a comment telling me what part of your yard you're working on right now, and I will see you in the next video.